Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Sarah here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Michael, and he's selling his Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, really happy to have you here. And I'm definitely looking forward to talking a bit more about your business. Before we do dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. So this is an Amazon FBA business in the home niche, created in August 2018. The average monthly revenue of the business is $26,391 and has an average of $4,258 per month in net profit. And that is based on a 6-month pricing period. Included in the sale of the business are domain and all-site content and files, trademarks, supplier contracts and relationships, and contracts for current freelancers involved with the business. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47476 to learn more about the business or to unlock the listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing. Now that I've given a general overview of the business, let's dig into the interview. So Michael, can you tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. So I started, being interested in this field around maybe 4 years ago, more than a few years at least. I tried out several models. I was just Googling like crazy, watching some YouTube videos to get to know a bit more on the possibilities. I started with arbitrage, which is most basic form of having some sort of e-commerce going on. And yeah, that didn't work out completely. I'm based in Europe, so that is not ideal if you want to do arbitrage, especially in the US. And as the US is the biggest market, that is what I wanted to do. So I started looking into other things, and I ran into FBA soon after that. And that seemed like a much more interesting model, much more long-term, and something that you could really grow out into a brand, into a real business, and really manage like a true online e-commerce business. So that's where I got really interested in. I started reading general business books and basically anything I could find on this. And yeah, for me, it's always important that you truly understand what you're doing. I'm not going to start something if I don't understand why exactly it's such a great idea. So once I got the feeling, okay, but this really is a great possibility, and this really is something that could earn me some decent money. At that point, I got into it and I got started. And from then, it was just step by step going through the motion and trying how to get to the point that it was launched. And that was the main point of excitement of whether or not it would succeed, and if my logic was actually true, if it made sense, and it went well. So.
Oh, that's a great story. Yeah, I love how you went from arbitrage to going right into FBA and to where you are now. Of course, you're testing your logic, seeing it does make sense. You've got a pretty good business set up here. You know, from your perspective, you kind of explained FBA in a really cool way and why it's a great business model. But for those who are new and looking to get in for the first time, why do you think FBA would be good for people, say, new to online business?
Well, one of the main reasons, first of all, the business model itself is a great business model. Well, just because the business model is completely outsourced, which means it's incredibly scalable and it's hands-off, so it can turn into a passive income quite easily. So that means that FBA is fulfilled by Amazon. So it means that Amazon is doing the entire fulfillment of it. So they take it, they label it, they package it, they send it. And all you have to do is make sure you're in stock, basically. And of course, there's a lot involved with taking the right pictures, doing the right marketing, setting up the PPC campaigns, finding the right product in the first place. But that is all upfront work, or at least it's not sell your time for money kind of setup, right? So if your idea is good and your setup is good, it should start generating money without you touching it too much. So that already as a business model is very interesting, because it means that there's no ceiling to how much you could potentially earn in any kind of other job where you sell time for money, obviously. So for new people, one of the big reasons is that there's so much content how to do it, right? You can find basically a step-by-step plan as to how every little detail works, explained by 200 different people on YouTube. There's nothing that you can't find, right? So there's an entire industry on helping people, guide them through this process. So that is really helpful, actually. I mean, I think that it means that if you're new to the business, there is a lot of opportunity to learn. Like I said a bit in the beginning, that is very helpful, but you should never do something if you don't understand it, right? So you can't just take the step plan from someone else, implement it, and expect to be successful. You have to understand why it works, right? So that part, I think, in anything you do is important. But for sure, it gives you the opportunity to really do anything you want, because the logistics, the how to is completely available. And it's up to you to decide what exactly and the why, I guess. Everything is available to find.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a great answer, and it gives good perspective for people realizing that you pretty much have all the resources you need. Like you're saying, you probably don't necessarily have to take a course, at least early on. You can study yourself and find everything you need online. So pretty cool. So what about this niche? Why did you choose this niche in particular?
So I had kind of a list in my head as to what a niche should have for me to be interesting. And to be entirely honest, this niche didn't, how do you say that? It didn't click all the categories, didn't sign off all the points.
Yeah, didn't tick all the boxes, maybe.
Tick all the boxes, exactly. Sorry, I'm not a native speaker. But yeah, it didn't tick all the boxes. But I stumbled upon it by accident. I was actually looking into the baby category, to be honest. And I stumbled a different category in a different niche. But what it really did, it had a clear emerging market. And I could not explain to myself in any way how I would not be successful. Like, I couldn't give myself a reason as to why that would not be a good idea. And I think that's a good test to implement, right? So if you see other people selling and you think they're not doing well, I don't know why they're not doing well. Maybe then you shouldn't enter it, right? But if you see a niche that you really think, okay, I completely understand why those are not doing well, why those are doing well, and everything makes sense to me, that's a great moment to enter. And this was such a market where I really felt whole to be filled. And that's why I started with this one, even though it wasn't my initial niche I was looking at.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Very interesting insight on how to pick a niche. So thank you for that. So why are you selling this business instead of keeping it and growing it?
Yeah, so I have doubted about it, and I have doubted up to quite recently. But I feel like I always had the plan to grow out this brand. And I feel like now I'm at the point that the products I have are stable, they're good. And now I have to take the next step. And the next step, in my opinion, is to really grow the brand horizontally. So just start using cross-selling as a power and open your own store in Amazon still. But you have this option to open an own store for a specific brand, and then you can click there and you can start cross-selling. And I think that is the big new opportunity. And that's what my plan was. But it does require a lot of time, and not only time, but clarity of mind, let's say. So real time, which I don't have at the moment. I have a small kid. I have quite a demanding job, which I didn't used to have, but I do have that now. I have other investments that I'm working on. So either I just let it run its course or just keep it as it is, basically, or I change something drastically in the rest of my situation so that I can dedicate more time to this. And I decided that, yeah, it's better to sell now, and in the future, again, when I do have more time, perhaps start over. But now I have too many other projects that need my attention. So
yeah, that makes sense. Very cool. Well, so I bet you're going to have an interesting perspective on this. Would you say there's anything that you learned from this business that you would apply to future sites or businesses? Or did you find something along the way that just seemed to really work for you?
So maybe I'm repeating myself a bit, but I have said that you should understand why you're doing something. And I've actually been guilty of not doing that as well. I know that first to market is a big thing. So when more competitors started coming in my niche, I also tried at some point to beat them a new improvement or something and launch just because it seemed like that's the direction of the market, instead of taking a step back and seeing if it actually made sense to me. So I did do that. I launched something that I ended up taking out again. This is already a year ago because I wasn't happy with it. And I just let the market drive me, or I let the impatience, I guess, wanting to be first and not wanting to miss out. And I would say that is not how you go about it and how you should go about it in any cases. You should really, it's important to be the first in the market, but it's important to be the first with something good. And being good is what a lot of people don't take time for. So if you do take the time, there's still a big chance that you start dominating the market if you are the ones that thought about it the best and the most. And I think that for me, that's a big thing. Basically, I guess to sum up, patience, right? Make sure that you are behind what you do and not just do it because others are doing it, let's say, right? Is what I guess our mother's advice would have been in general.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, you kind of opened up and you were saying a little bit about, what didn't work. I guess that you were saying, it's, make sure you know what you're doing. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Was there anything that you did try with this business that didn't work?
Yeah, it did, because the initial product I launched is the one that's still selling the best, and it's the one that's still the main source of income. But after that, I launched several other versions, actually. And some of them were driven by just seeing what other people are doing and thinking maybe I should also have been doing that, or maybe I should trying to not miss out on part of the market. Even though I had already tested it at home, I had already thought this is not actually adding anything. It's just visuals, it seems good, but it's not actually good. But still I launched it and still I tried, and turned out it wasn't selling well. So yeah, that's when I decided that unless I, for myself, honestly think it's a good idea, I'm not going to launch anything. And yes, that's what I was trying to explain. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And, I think both versions of this question, what worked and what didn't work, you've really provided some solid insight and advice for listeners. So it's pretty cool. How do you get your inventory to Amazon, and where is it stored? Paint me a picture of that as an outsider.
Sure. So the inventory is sourced from China at the moment, and then it's sent either directly to Amazon, or the freight forwarder that I'm using has their own warehouse that they provide as a temporary warehouse. So you can't store things there real long term, but you can store it for up to 6 months. So you can either send it from China to their warehouse in the US, or you can send it directly to the warehouse in Amazon. And the benefit of having that in between warehouse as a possibility is that Amazon is rating you. So they give you a seller rating based on yourself. So if you sell your items through within 3 months, even end up getting better rates. And if you are completely reliant on their warehouse, keeping it on a 3-month cycle with more than a month of production time and about a month of shipping time, because it's sea freight that it goes through, is quite difficult to stay on, right? So having an outside warehouse means that you have a bit more leeway to manage your time schedule there.
Very cool. What are you currently doing in terms of marketing for the business?
Honestly, it's fully within Amazon. So I just use PPC. So I have the main product is the one I've been talking about mostly now, but there's also another product included in the sale that is in the baby niche, actually. And that one, during launch, we have used some Facebook campaigns. But to be honest, they didn't turn out necessary. That it was also very low budget. So the main thing for sure is PPC, pay-per-clicks.
Okay, PPC. Moving on to a bit of a different subject here, let's talk about the future of the business and kind of what your ideas are for, what a potential buyer could do. If you were to keep this business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
Yeah, so the main way to grow it, and I kind of alluded to that before as to why I want to sell it, because I don't have the time for that next step. But for sure, the big opportunity, in my opinion, is the main brand, opening a store for that and launching several associated products to open the door to cross-selling. So the market that I'm on now, it's an emerging market. I don't know if this is the right term, but anyway, it's a growing market. So that it was a very small niche, and the niche is still very much a niche, but it's growing quite a lot. So overall sales are increasing, not just mine, but overall in the market. And that means there's also a lot of traffic, and there's only one competitor that has its own store, and he's doing great, actually. And to me, that is the obvious road to go down. Just open a store for your brand and launch several other products associated with it. And only the traffic from this product will already lead to profitable cross-selling. That's what my analysis is. Of course, you'll need to do some more independent PPC. That is definitely a big next step, I think.
Okay. Now, on the flip side, what do you think are the biggest risks with the business that a buyer should be aware of?
Yeah, so the biggest risk, I would say that this product, I don't know if it's a risk, it has both sides to it, but this product is not the cheapest. I don't know if I can give price ranges, but anyway, it's not super expensive. But anyway, your inventory does have a certain level that there's going to be some money stuck in your inventory. I mean, the smaller or cheaper a product is, I suppose, the least you have that. And this is somewhat larger. It requires sea shipping, for example. So that means that there's longer shipping time, and your inventory cost for that reason is a bit higher. It also means that entry to market is higher, so it limits competitors in a similar way, of course. But I don't know. I always thought it was both sides. It's a benefit because it limits other people from entering the market up to a certain point. But it does mean some money is stuck in inventory in that sense.
Okay, understandable. So can you describe the amount and type of work you do on this business for maintenance?
Yeah, so I think this is, well, let me just first answer your question. For myself, I used to do about daily, I check sales, but that's just because I'm neurotic about it. I like to check it. It's not necessarily required, but monthly I would for sure update my PPCs, and I would always intervene if I see some sort of strange movement, something I didn't predict. If my sales would suddenly go down, or also if they suddenly go up, I'm just gonna check out the market, check out if something happened, if something changed. And in case something did change, perhaps I might take action on that. But generally it's just monitoring your sales a bit, monthly updating of PPCs, and making sure you don't run out of inventory. And what I wanted to add on to that is that lately I found a freelancer that I think you mentioned. And to be honest, my biggest strength is not PPC analytics. I am more the bigger picture kind of guy. And he is really good at that. And he really helped me. And he's willing to keep working also with the business. So now I do even much less, to be honest. I trust him more on the PPCs than I trust myself. So he's doing that part for me completely. And I'm happy for it.
Okay. Would you say there's any skills or requirements for someone not familiar with this niche or business model in order to take over the business?
Well, I really think it's a big benefit to have the freelancer because he's really very much up to date on the market and on the PPCs and our strategy in general. Of course, you would have to learn about FBA in general, how it works. It's not too complex, but yeah, just how the model works, how you fulfill your orders, etc. Although, again, even the freelancer could help you there too. He doesn't at the moment, but he could. And for the niche, I think it's important that I explain my ideas on why the position is unique, why it's working well. So that would come from me, I suppose, because I think it's good to know really the history of how it evolved and how we positioned ourselves so that you kind of can understand the niche itself. It's not a complex product or anything. It's not something that it's just more the history on it, I guess.
Okay. A few wrap-up questions here. How much support are you offering buyers?
Yeah, so to be honest, I am selling it because of quite an extreme lack of time, but I do want to provide as much support as is needed to keep it running successfully. I mean, I also have some direct interest perhaps once it's sold, but it's some emotional interest at least. So I will give call support for at least a month, and I'm not going to say always, but yeah, you can always reach out via email, and I'm very happy to help. So
that sounds good. Would you commit to a non-compete?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, non-compete is fine. Yeah.
And are you open to something like an earnout?
Yeah, so an earnout could be negotiated. It depends a bit on what we agree on. My interest would be cash up front, or my preference, but it's something that we can look at depending on the terms, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. A few personal questions here. Is there anyone who inspired you while building this business that our listeners might like as well? So that might be the YouTubers that you mentioned in the beginning, how you learned the business. It could be Facebook groups, podcast, anything that might kind of help our listeners learn like you did?
Sure. So I think that there are some big names that most people start with. One of them is Tim Ferriss, I guess, from the 4-Hour Workweek, that a lot of people start by reading to get out of the 9-to-5 idea. So I did listen to him, and his podcast is really good. On the specifics for FBA, I think regarding the how-to-dos, there's actually a lot from Jungle Scout, and that is quite detailed and quite good. But on the philosophy behind it, I wouldn't follow them. They're too much into selling their own product. It's not so helpful. It's just the how-to for them. And on the how to approach it, I like to listen to Matt Loberstein. He's not so famous, but I like his YouTube channel. It's fully on FBA as well. And he gives a very realistic approach to it. So I really agree with how he says it. He also emphasizes the point a lot of understanding what you do. Don't just repeat what others do. And yeah, I think it gives a good perspective.
Great. What drove you and motivated you while having this business?
Well, for me, it was just in the first place creating something and then seeing the fruit of your labor, right? That idea. So you create something and then it's actually selling and seeing, honestly, positive reviews is really nice, whereas negative ones are less nice, of course. But in general, it's positive. So That is always nice to read. And just, I really like the strategic part of it. So thinking how to position yourself and thinking about how to grow it, and that it's all under your control. So from the beginning to start, even though most of it is outsourced, you are the decision maker, and going more or less according to your plan. And that's something I really like, that this business model provides, that it's all possible within one brain, let's say. It's not too complex because of the outsourced nature.
Great. This is my final question here. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
So I think that's what I said before, but I honestly think there is great growth potential. First of all, I think that where the brands are now is quite stable. Well, the main brand is dominating its niche and has a long history, and it means that it's in a quite stable situation. First of all, that's very good, and it has a lot of traffic, but there's also a lot of potential with the cross-selling, starting your own store there and using that traffic to get other products ahead of competitors in those niches. I really think that there's a lot of potential there, and that the freelancer is willing to continue to work and has so much knowledge. Like I said, on some parts, he has more knowledge than I do. That means that you're starting ahead. You can just rely on him for a lot in the beginning, and it kind of solves the issue of the knowledge transfer, that you weren't there from the beginning, but he has been there for now quite a few months. So he is very aware of how it works.
Great. Well, Michael, this has been a fantastic interview. I've loved hearing a bit more about your business. I've gone through most of my questions. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Anything I might have missed?
No, I think that's basically all I wanted to say on it. I mean, I'm available for more questions, of course, in case someone has them, and we can discuss more details then.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate having you on, and best of luck with the sale and, everything happening.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the interview.
Yeah, thank you. So, all right, thanks for tuning in. To check out more details on this business or to unlock the listing, visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47476. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. By unlocking the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business and can start your due diligence. Until next time.